My point is, can we spend some money to get some talent on this team first? Because you're gonna get what is perceived to be a better coach in next year or whatever, and you're going to spend money to put players. I guarantee this defense gets some free agents next year. Well, however, whatever the coach, whatever the previous coach thought of that defense last year, they're going to put some money on this defense. They're going to put some money on offense, and all of a sudden they're going to win 6-7 games. Oh damn! Look what this coach last year, they couldn't do anything. Like, come on, man, you got to give some guys some players. Same thing with the Raiders. How many years you going to go with a terrible quarterback? When is the last time they had a good quarterback?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Can we get him one?
Sure, you can. I mean, that's fine. But I'm just telling you, like, if you're asking why these guys got fired, those are part of the reasons. Now, the other backstory with New England is that they got wind that Vrabel was starting to interview with teams, and that's the guy they want. And so I think they looked at it and said, we're going to be better with Vrabel than we are with Mayo. We'll just fire Mayo and go on with Vrabel.
The NFL would be our segue here. So we're going to first let's talk about coaches, then we'll get to the playoff game. So, of course, Black Friday came around, and we had a couple of black coaches to lose their jobs. And the what's interesting about this is they got fired after 1 year of coaching. Okay, So you got the Raiders, Antonio Pierce, and then of course the Patriots coach. Names on
Gerard Mayo.
Gerard Mayo. All right. What is your takeaway from this, especially getting fired after 1 year? Like, you didn't get a chance to put any imprint really on this team, and they were bad teams when you got the job.
Yeah. Couple things. In coaching, you're always going to be a little bit a victim of circumstance when you don't control the front office operations, and so Jared Mayo, I thought he was pretty bad objectively. He rolled out with Jacoby Brissett at the beginning of the year, saying Drake May wasn't ready. Then when results weren't there, he goes to May, and then he actually goes to what's his name, the Joe Milton at the end, who played well and got him a win and lost him the top spot in the draft. I think he just made bad decisions all year. He wasn't good with the media. The team was completely uninspired. You also had Belichick mid-year. He was Mayo's complaining about the defense, and Belichick was kind of like, yeah, that same personnel was like third in rushing defense last year. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he never had anything go right for him. And maybe it's filling in for Belichick. Maybe he's just not that good at coach. But at the end of the day, he did not have anything go right for him, and I'm not surprised he's gone. There was nothing at the end of the year other than this one-off win in the last game that cost you the top draft pick that you felt like, oh, we're building something. Something's growing here. I think Antonio Pierce, to me, is a lot more interesting because you remember last year when he got the job, like that locker room was lit. I mean, they were happy. They were thrilled to be with him. People smoking cigars after the game. They had a big win over the Chiefs. And then he did the whole podcast talk show circuit in the offseason. And he sounded like a guy that had a lot of confidence in himself and what he could bring to the team. And the reality is it never happened this year. Mm-hmm. Midway through the year, Max Crosby, who was a big supporter of yours last year, wants to get the hell out of town. Yeah. And Devontae Adams got the hell out of town. And you never had a quarterback all year. And I know, you're not going to win in the National Football League without a quarterback. And for his entirety of 1+ seasons, he didn't have one. So he was handicapped in that regard. But he seemed to lose the rest of that roster as this season went along. So I'm not surprised at all that he gets dismissed. I feel a little bad. I mean, I did listen to a lot of the podcasts that he was in, and I was optimistic about him. I wanted him to do well, and it seemed like he had a certain swagger and command and understanding of people that would serve him well. But it just didn't work. And you're judged by your results. I mean, the great Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are.
That's not true.
It is true.
It's just not true.
How long was the
guys
Jazz
don't
coach
get
there?
Which one?
The one that they just
Urban was there for
fired?
multiple years.
And
Urban who?
They were terrible. He was terrible.
Not Urban, but Urban. Was it? No, it
Meyer
wasn't.
had 1 year in Jacksonville.
You're talking about Doug Peterson, right? Doug Peterson is the current coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No, he got fired, didn't he?
No, who's the coach now?
Doug Peterson. I think he just got fired.
Yeah. But how long was he there?
A couple years.
Years.
Like at least
three. I think three.
So now you have
Urban was the coach when They drafted Trevor.
When they first drafted Trevor.
And then he had the 1 year and he was done. He was a disaster.
And then
Dougie
he also,
P came in.
It was like allegations and stuff like that.
He was a mess. Everyone hated him.
Yeah.
They hated him. He was terrible. He needed to go. Dougie P came in, and they did make the playoff appearance. They had the big comeback against the Chargers. They kind of hung with the Chiefs a little bit. Things looked optimistic. Last year, they were like 8-3 at one point and collapsed down the stretch. And then this year, they were bad from week one.
Now, Jacksonville is in my point. I was just trying to help her figure out what coach he was talking about. My point is, 1 year is not an indicator of what you are as a coach, and that's why a lot of coaches don't get fired after 1 year, especially and usually you are taking over a bad team. All right, that's what coaching changes happen. But like Gronk here, I remember Gronk said something, but Gronk was like he never had the chance to develop as a head coach. He says Jimmy Johnson, only won 1 game in his first year, but ultimately won 2 Super Bowls. You know what I mean? So if you are what your record says you are, then he only won 1 game his first year. He should have been out of there. He shouldn't have had the opportunity to come back for a second chance. So what I'm saying is there's no way to know and what you have in a coach if you only give him 1 year on a bad team. With in his case a rookie quarterback, and in another case no quarterback. Like, come on, what are we talking about here? Why did you hire him in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, you can't. What were you expecting? They won 4 games, 3 or 4 games. What did you want? 6 or 7 games? With what roster? With what quarterback?
You do want progress. I mean, when you hire somebody, even in a bad job, you want progress.
What money did you spend in the offseason to get that progress? You're not just gonna put a cherry on a pile of shit and expect a 3-4 game plus thing. What money did you invest? Like,
what team are we talking about?
Either one. Both. I'm talking about both.
Context
so let's talk Patriots first. You got the former coach saying, "Hey, that's the same defense that had the 3rd ranked rushing defense." So that's going to indicate they didn't spend any money on defense. They said, "Okay, we're fine. We had the 3rd race. Damn, what we did in the passing game in defense last year. We stopped the rush. We have 3rd ranking." And last they didn't spend any money on defense.
Last year's Patriot team was ugly, but they were good defensively. They played a lot of miserable, ugly games.
And then we moved into this year, and they didn't allocate any money on defense. So what money did they spend on offense? They drafted the quarterback, so they didn't bring anybody in the quarterback room of significance.
Right.
What running back or receiver did they bring in? What offensive lineman? None.
I'm not saying they spent a ton of money. But
this is my point.
I'm not saying that he got fired purely because of the record.
It had to be. What was it? What was it for?
He got fired because he made mistakes. He mishandled the quarterback situation during the course of the year. They at no point did they build any momentum.
My point is, can we spend some money to get some talent on this team first? Because you're gonna get what is perceived to be a better coach in next year or whatever, and you're going to spend money to put players. I guarantee this defense gets some free agents next year. Well, whatever the coach, the previous coach thought of that defense last year, they're going to put some money on this defense. They're going to put some money on offense, and all of a sudden they're going to win 6 or 7 games. Oh damn! Look what this coach last year, they couldn't do anything. Like, come on, man, you got to give some guys some players. Same thing with the Raiders. How many years you going to go with a terrible fucking quarterback? When is the last time they had a good quarterback?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Can we get him one?
Sure, you can. I mean, that's fine. But I'm just telling you, like, if you're asking why these guys got fired, those are part of the reasons. Now, the other backstory with New England is that they got wind that Vrabel was starting to interview with teams, and that's the guy they want. And so I think they looked at it and said, we're going to be better with Vrabel than we are with Mayo. We'll just fire Mayo and go on with Vrabel.
Yeah. Now, I don't 100% think it's a black-white thing. Which takes a little bit away from my point, but there has to be an element to it, and there has been a couple of white coaches to be fired after 1 year. Of course, there are a lot more blacks, but to be fair, there are a couple of white coaches outside of Urban that had allegations to be fired after 1 year. But still, there just has to be something to that.
Percentage of black coaches for them to, just not even get that a period of time so they can either prove themselves and then they fire them prior to, within a year, that the percentage of that, it looks bad. It looks.
No, it does. I mean, I've stood on the side of it. I think more black coaches need opportunities. I think more black coaches need to have like good opportunities, not inheriting terrible teams.
Yeah, I want real opportunities, man.
And then I mean, one of the examples in that direction is Bowles in Tampa. I mean, Arians kind of set it up, retired late, and passed the baton to him on a team that had some pieces.
Yeah.
And to his credit, Bowles has done pretty well there. I mean, they're not Super Bowl contenders, but they're back-to-back division champions and playoff appearance. He's doing a pretty good job. And so that was a situation, though, where – and you look at it in a vacuum and say, well, that was one of those interesting situations where a black coach got a genuinely good opportunity. The Bucs were a pretty solid roster and had a lot of pieces, and he gets that opportunity. And again, credit to Arians, who has been, kind of at the forefront or strongly
he's been an advocate
in favor of African-American coaches.
Yeah.
Another guy, again, I'll be seeing it interesting. It felt a little flat all year, but D'Amico Ryans. I don't think like the Texans, they had a nice year last year. C.J. Stroud was great. This year they kind of ended up with about the same record, I think. But you didn't feel that they really improved. Now they're going to have an opportunity in the playoffs to win a game, maybe go on a run. But I would feel, and he absolutely should be completely safe. As Texans coach to move forward there and to hopefully build something
1,000%. But
to me, it would be highly disturbing if he gets let go prematurely.
The median of all of those two teams that you just mentioned in Tampa Bay and in Houston is that they have talent and a lot of it.
Agreed.
Not a small bit, not a little. I mean, they have a lot of talent.
Well, the year before, the Texans had the David Cali guy, who was a black coach, but they were terrible that year. They had no quarterback. They lost a bunch of games, and he got run out in a single year. And again, what happens to these guys? Like, where's David Cowley now? I don't know. What's Jared Mayo's and Antonio Pierce's path going to look like forward? And that's one of the big damning things about when a lot of these black coaches get fired very quickly, the opportunity doesn't come again.
Right.
And again, to be fair, Todd Bowles was, I think, with the Jets for a period of time, was run out there. And if he didn't get, Arians kind of on his side, I don't know that he gets another opportunity. Yeah. And that you got to consider that when we look at this, as a whole. The other guy that's going to be very interesting to see is Brian Flores. And he was the guy that got fired by the Dolphins. Yeah. Tomlin got him, and he sued the league, I believe. Yeah. I do not know the outcome of that suit.
I think it's still going on.
Still open.
Yeah.
But then he went to Tomlin with the Steelers, and then he's been with the Vikings this year, who have been an excellent team.
Great on defense, yeah.
And great on defense specifically. So,
But he's not a coach with the Vikings.
Defensive
coordinator. Yeah.
He's a coordinator.
But, again, if you're looking at a career path, this is a guy that's put himself in position to be a new head coach and have that opportunity. If he continues to get overlooked, we still have to ask some questions. Now, I did listen to Fitzpatrick today, and he was pretty harsh on Flores' time with the Dolphins. He said he was really kind of extremely arrogant there.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. He
was kind of isolated himself from even his coaching staff, didn't treat the players particularly well, and he was Fitz's take was I hope that by spending time with Tomlin and by spending time with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, that he has learned the people part of this business better and better positions himself to succeed. And I hope that for him too. I mean, again, he's poised for the opportunity. He's put in the work you can as a coordinator to be a candidate to be a head coach. And if he's passed over, it becomes interesting because you could argue there's not a whole lot of dudes that are going to be more qualified, based on present performance.
For sure.